bringing you the latest news from Monterey Athletics. This is the Plainsmen Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the High School Fan Zone. I am Randy Rosetta. This is 100.7 The Score. I was just telling Josh Davis from Monterey that he kind of has a Ryan Davis beard going over here, or a Ryan Day beard going on over here as Notre Dame and Ohio State are on TV in front of us. Fighting Irish just scored a touchdown, if you're not paying attention or if you care. That beard is who is it? Paul Page is always talking about your hair. He's jealous of your hair. Full disclosure, I don't know if Paul can grow hair, if that's a by choice thing,
True.
Or if that's having two daughters. Because
There's probably a little bit of that in there.
I've got two daughters, and I've still got some salad.
Yeah, it's a little gray. That's what everybody keeps telling me. Just wait your turn. It's coming.
And your dark hair, you're especially.
I'm vulnerable, I hear.
Although I will say, I'll tell you what I tell my oldest daughter. The day she was born 25 years ago, this last December, I didn't have a gray hair on my head until December 7th. The next day I woke up and I was like, what is this?
My wife likes to find them in my beard right now before, getting ready in the morning and show, hey, you got another one. And so, yeah, she likes to point out that they're showing up, but it's the kids' fault, of course.
You've seen, I've grown it out a little bit once in a while, and I do that to let my daughters know, just to guilt them a little bit and say, look, you did this.
This is your fault.
You still got, your two are still very...
Yes, about to be 7 and 5, so...
Boy is 7?
Girl 7, boys 5.
Okay, and the boy's the one that climbs up all over the bleachers.
He is. The whole gym is his property every time he's in it.
And I saw this on a Facebook post the other day. If that's a little girl, your dad's like real nervous. With a little boy, you're like, ah.
Yep. We were like that for a little while with him, and then realized that it's better let him go and learn by experience.
Yeah, because you're also paying for that insurance now and down the road. We probably ought to talk about basketball at some point here, because your basketball team is quietly making some hay here. Lee Scott was on earlier. Mustangs had a big win the other night, beat Paladero. You guys have had a few of those yourself, and all of a sudden, Monterey is 7-3 in District 3-5A, right outside, or actually in fourth place. Got Lubbock Cooper nipping at your heels a little bit, but you're nipping at Paladero and Tascosa's heels, which is big because Tuesday night those Rebels come to town.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's what. We've got them this Tuesday, and then we're off Friday in Amarillo next Tuesday. Yep. So something we've been talking about is a good chance for us to separate a little bit because Cooper has all those guys on the back end. And keep the lead, the one game that we have right now over them, playing the teams that are above us in district, and then kind of cementing our spot of being in and talking about some seeding as opposed to fighting for our playoff lives. And we've got a great chance to do that in the next week with these two games we've got coming up.
Lee Scott and I have talked about that, and Joel Snyder and I have talked about that. Brent Palmer, in your district, it's just weird how the gauntlet lines up for boys and girls where you play those teams that are, I haven't looked at the TABC boys rankings yet. I'm with the girls. Your girls are number 1. I believe Tascosa's number 4. Amarillo's number 5. Mm-hmm. Everybody else, it seems like they play those 3 right in a row, and it's like, again. You guys, it's not quite as daunting, but like you said, if you can grind through these next few and find a way to split or win 2, all of a sudden you get to that other side and you can start thinking, okay, we've survived.
Yeah, and a lot of the these district ones count double, and so that's always a thing, and especially here at the end when you're talking about being in or out of the playoffs. But all of us that are kind of in the mix right now, we play each other in groups. We play everybody starting tomorrow until the next 4 or 5 games. Cooper's got them kind of all at the end, and everybody's mixed in there. So. The next really 2 weeks, besides it being the end of the season, it carries even more significance because we're all playing each other for these spots. Nobody's kind of got a last game where they're probably going to win and be in, and you can write it off. It's going to come down to that last Tuesday.
And getting to the point in your district where I don't know that you can look at any games and say, we'll probably win that one, especially the way Coronado's playing all of a sudden. He's got those guys improving, and as he pointed out, Lubbock High has struggled, but Lubbock High at some point, I said this last year at the end of baseball season, they're going to beat somebody.
Yep.
They're going to punch a hole in somebody's hopes and do something, so you have to stay locked in.
Plainview's been the same. Plainview's had a bunch of 2 and 3, 1 point the other day with Cooper losses. They're one possession away a whole bunch, and that's part of the challenge, but also it's a little enjoyable that you don't have 3 teams at the bottom that you're just you don't want to play the game, and God, this is going to be a drag.
Yes,
and every one of them is something to get up for and carry some meaning, even besides the fact that it's a district game.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that when you're Monterey too, that Coronado and Lubbock High they're going to enjoy getting ready for you regardless.
A little bit, yeah. There's a little bit of rivalry there, going back quite a few years now. But those are always great. We play all the Amarillo schools as much as we can, so there's a lot of familiarity there. Been able to keep Amarillo and Tascosa on the schedule the last couple of years before we went into the district together. So we've played, our guys now have played them as freshmen and then on JV and then now as varsity the last couple of years. So there's a lot of familiarity and some kind of built-in rivalry there that we've played each other so much it's felt almost like another district opponent.
Okay, it's been a few years, so we can do this. Did you ever lose to Lubbock High when you were playing?
We did. My first 2 years when I was a freshman and sophomore, we did. My freshman year, they were really good. I made sure and told the kids about that when we were over there on Friday. My freshman year, they were co-district champions with Amarillo High.
Ron Vick?
Yep. They split with each other. They beat each other and beat everybody else and beat us both times. They were really good.
And then Coronado. Now remember, you're going to have to deal with
Coronado. I lost a couple times early on, and then we split my junior and senior year. My senior year, when we won district, they were our only loss. We lost over there. It's always tough to play over there in that game, anyways. And we lost by a couple, and so never swept them. A little bit. Last year was the first year we'd swept Coronado, and I think we counted like 17, 18 years.
Wow. Yeah, you told me that last year.
We'd split each other a whole bunch. Most times you win at home. There were a few years where it flipped around. But that kind of just goes back to that rivalry and the format of our district now, how good everybody is, and there's no nights off, and you take anybody for granted and they're going to bite you.
Well, it's something Lee and I mentioned too, and love the football coaches, love football as much as anybody. Football's a little bit different. You play a game on a Friday, a Thursday or Friday, and then you kind of recoil and start thinking about, and you can kind of ease into that next game. Basketball, and you were a college player, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's no dwelling. There's wake up and start thinking about who's next.
Yep, and that's why I always tell our guys that's why I like basketball the most. That's why it's the best. I don't have to wait another week to either continue what I did well or make up for mistakes that I made the week before. Tournaments are even better. You can play bad in the morning and play good in the afternoon. But you get an immediate chance to bring it back and do it again and hopefully play better and learn from what you just did, either maybe that morning in a tournament or Tuesday, Friday in our district schedule.
Short-term memory. You were a baseball guy too, so you have to have even shorter-term memory there. Plainsmen are 13-15, which is very misleading because I believe 1-7 at one point before you got fully stocked. More importantly, they're 7-3 in district. We'll talk more about what's coming up for them when we come back on the Plainsmen Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.
Diving headfirst into Monterey athletics. You're listening to the Plainsmen Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score and the 100.7 The Score mobile app.
Welcome back to the second segment of the Plainsmen Fan Zone. Monterey gets 3 segments since they back clean up. That means the coaches get in here, drag in here, have to be here an extra 10 minutes. So I don't know if I told you that or not.
Not a problem.
I think I surprised Jill the first time she got here. I think she was ready to go after 20 minutes. I said, no, you got to hang out 10 more minutes with me. She really didn't care. Jill is a living legend.
Very much so.
That lady's got a pretty good team right now.
She does. They're fun to watch, and it's really helping help grow Monterey basketball even more. That when both sides are good and drawing more people to the stands to watch some great basketball from some great kids.
Well, and coincidentally, the opponent tomorrow night, Tascosa, in the new box. I was actually there up in Amarillo for those 2 games. That was a pretty electric environment there. I thought that was something good for your guys. I'm sure you had seen some good environments at that point early in the season, but that one to me toughened your hide a little bit.
Yeah, and it's been great. The girls being good brings a lot of extra fans. Sometimes on the road, a little more than home. Especially the visiting opponent fans tend to leave at halftime to come to watch the girls and take off. So we've had some games where it's very electric girls game, and then that home side for them empties out. Sometimes they stay, and with Tascosa they really stayed and made a great atmosphere. A lot of our girls' parents hung around some too, and so really helped in that regard. And Tuesday should be about the same, and then especially next Tuesday going up to Amarillo High should be a very similar atmosphere.
You guys lost that game in Tascosa. I don't need to remind you that. But I thought you played really well. I thought you did a lot of things that have carried over for several weeks now.
And that feels like a long time ago. Now a little over a month. Calendar-wise, not that long. But at that time, we'd played, I believe it was 6 games and had 4 practices with football and all that with the full squad. So we're in a much different spot now than we were that time around. A lot of mistakes, cleaned up offensively, but really I think a lot of our success the last couple of weeks has been really leaning into defense and getting back to what's made us successful and some of that chemistry and timing that goes along with it. That's really helping propel us a little bit right now.
I want you to talk about a couple of the guys that have kind of keyed that. I think Elijah Smothers, and I want to make sure I get it. Elijah Smothers, Isaiah Young. Mm-hmm. I've got the 2 biblical names there.
I'll mix them up too. They give me a hard time.
Because you're young. You don't mean wait till your kids. You start mixing up your kids' names and calling them. I just saw a dog up there. My daughters get called my pets' names all the time too, which doesn't go over well. But Elijah's been steady from start to finish. And he's fun to talk to because he's very thoughtful when he talks. Not that, I mean, some high school kids I think get a little bit caught up in the moment. When you ask them a question, they kick into cliche mode. I don't think I've ever heard him use a cliche. He processes it quickly and talks. He's very eloquent in what he says, and that kind of tends to, you can see the way he plays. He's a very thoughtful, cerebral player as well. Yeah,
and he fits real well. Him and Sam Arrington and Kanan that we just got back from injury, and Isaiah and Ryan. I mean, the guys that starting right now, Espen Garcia, those guys that have been in the lineup a lot right now. We had a lot of sickness and injury and stuff the last couple of weeks, but that group's been around quite a bit. Cam and Kyrie and Q and Chris, man, we got guys that really, offensively, I can get out of the way. We work a lot on motion stuff and then making reads, and I don't have to call very much. And so it really, makes it gets a little challenging sometimes to let them go. But they've earned that trust and that right to have me get out of the way a little bit and let them play.
That was a great answer you gave me after the Coronado game because Elijah drew a foul with 2.1 seconds left, and I asked you if you'd called or if you'd draw anything up. You kind of laughed and said no. They know what to do, and that's I'm going to compare. I'm going to bring up a former Samford coach, a guy named John Brady. I think I've told you that I covered at LSU, and he told me once with his best team, his 2006 Final Four team, the practices were very easy to coach because he blew the whistle and then kind of just sat back. And those guys that you kind of reminded me that when you've got guys that you trust and you know that you've done your job well to get them ready, they can kind of take care of things themselves.
Yeah, and really it's been something that we've been able to lean on, even going back a couple of years with Zyra and Ajon, TK and Brandon, that senior class, that they really took off with it. And last year's group, we gave them a little more structure, but not a lot, to help get them in some spots. But this year, we've kind of gone back to that mold of giving them some places to start, some movements and actions to start with, and then letting them go from there.
We'll come back and talk one more segment of Plainsmen basketball on the Plainsmen Fan Zone. I'm Randy Rosetta. This is 100.7 The Score.
Your inside look into Monterey sports. This is the Plainsmen Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score and the 100.7 The Score mobile app.
Welcome back to one more segment of the Plainsmen Fan Zone on Wednesday night. Reminder that Wednesday nights are the LISD Fan Zone nights, so that will be Coronado, Estacado, Lubbock High, and Monterey in order every Monday, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Wednesday nights will be Friendship, Lubbock Cooper, and Liberty from 6 to 7 p.m. Memorial will jump in that mix at some point. I don't know if that will be this year or we'll wait until next year, but there's another high school coming. I think we talked about that the last time you were on, that all of a sudden there's high schools popping up in Lubbock left and right.
Everywhere.
And those 2 districts are not going to stop growing anytime soon, from what I can tell.
Yep, and as we talked about last time, was a Lubbock district one day of all of us together and helping on that travel a little bit.
I'm selfish. As a matter of fact, Jay Nizzler and I talked about that, and he was like, oh, yeah, that'd be nice. Because I think they were getting ready to jump on a bus to go to Amarillo on a Tuesday night, which it's not a horrible drive any night of the week, but I would imagine for coaches it's much easier to pallet Friday night than Saturday.
It's Amarillo's better than Abilene on Tuesday nights for the last couple of years, last 4 years. So yeah, some of those Abilene Wiley Tuesday nights coming back, getting home at 12, pulling up to school at 12:30. Those are a thing of the past, at least for the foreseeable future, and so I'm fine with that.
I bet that Paul Page and Tony Wagner would trade those for the San Angelo bus trips as well on Tuesday nights.
Absolutely. Yep. And those days of the old big 6A where Tascosa was 6A and the district was Central, and making that drive on some of those nights too.
Yep. I know. I'm with you. I would be happy when everybody's here together and it's a little bit easier. And then the playoffs get a little bit funner too, because you got two different directions to go before you jump into the beast. So, which is where Monterey is headed. I'm going to knock on wood. I think I've done that 3 times here. I don't know if this is real wood or not. 7-3 in district right now with 6 games left.
Yes, sir.
5 starting tomorrow, starting Tuesday. Now, you guys still have the mini break coming up at some point.
We've got our bye on Friday.
Okay. So, yeah, you get one behemoth Tuesday night break and then on the road at Amarillo High. So we talked about it. You've got the back-to-back. This is a chance to make some hay for a team that's, I'm going to say it again, I bet Monterey's surprising a lot of people. Not surprising me, because I've watched you coach them. Before you, I watched, I just went completely blank. Jeremy McFerrin coaching. You guys have a way of getting guys to improve and get better as things have gone along. I mentioned Elijah. We didn't get into Isaiah, but just watching him, I think I caught the second or third game in a row of a stretch when he kind of started to emerge a little bit more. What's he brought to the table for you guys?
He's brought a lot of versatility. Being a bigger kid for our district, our area. Guarding inside and being athletic enough to guard outside, and then being able to play both those spots on offense. Really helps you on both sides, where you don't have to change a lot of things on either side to leave him in a certain area as a big, that he can play both inside and out and with confidence. And I'm not worried about him being in one spot or the other to do the right thing.
And I think the thing that's kind of been a signature for Monterey the last several years too is you guys have kids who understand what a role player is. They understand that you don't have to score 20 points to make an impact. You can do some different things, and you have several of those guys this year.
Yeah, we've got kind of a rotating cast of who's going to score kind of between 6 and 12 every night. Elijah's leading us, and Sam's right behind him, averaging about 12 or 13, and then everybody else is kind of between 6 and 10, and that rotates any given night. And really that goes back a couple years. Like even last year at Coronado, we don't win over there on the road without Espen Garcia making some big steals and transition baskets late. And that's just, the character of these kids. We've really hard paying attention to detail and being in the right spot. And when you do that, there's not a formula. Everybody gets a reward at their time. And sometimes it may be one after the other. We just take turns, and sometimes it may be me 2 or 3 times in a row. But everybody's committed to doing that and making that scoreboard be the end result and not their own stat line.
I hope people aren't taking it as a negative when I say you guys are maybe off the radar a little bit, but I'll throw that out to you. Do you like having a team that maybe people aren't thinking about right now that has a chance to do something here down the stretch?
I don't entirely mind. I think part of that's due to our non-district. We talked about last times a little bit on purpose, that it's as many challenges as I can find, that we're not going to find any games that are going to just be useless and go either wipe the floor with somebody or get smacked one way or the other. That we're here to challenge you and get you better. So maybe that's a little bit in the record that it doesn't look like maybe we're as good as what some other things say. But once we've had everybody and gotten into this district schedule and had everybody really working hard at practice, we're seeing the results of what we are and what we can be, and hopefully we keep peaking at the right time heading into the playoffs here in about a month.
But this gets mentioned a lot. Playoffs are different now. 2 big schools, 2 small schools. So Monterey begins or continues that process Tuesday night at home against Tascosa. That's going to wrap us up on the Plainsmen Fan Zone. I'll be back next Monday on the High School Fan Zone. This is Randy Rosetta on 100.7 The Score.